everybody, welcome back to the second part of my restoring the Amiga 600 video. Really hope you've enjoyed the first episode. If not, do check it out. It's all about a bit of history of this machine and also what I'm setting out to do. So really good news, it's all working. This little baby from 1992 is now fully functional, and since getting the motherboard back from Amiga Kit about a week and a half ago, it's just been working brilliantly. So really excited to show you how I put it all back together again, some of the work that's been done, and also I found out that the keyboard had a fault. Unfortunately the membrane in this was damaged, which is quite a common problem with these rather old computers now. So as a bit of bonus material, I'll be showing you how I replaced the keyboard membrane and got that fully working. And you'll remember from the first part, the whole aim of this video is to keep this Amiga 600 relatively stock how it came out of the factory. So basic 68,000 base machine, and also we're just going to add a little bit of extra memory with it, with a little bit of PCMCIA memory, so a little 2 MB RAM upgrade up there. So yeah, it's going to be a little short video, and also going to show you some of my favourite games which are really great to get back to playing again, such as Leander and Rainbow Islands, maybe a few others, and also one of my favourite productivity packages of all time, Deluxe Paint. So enjoy the video guys, and see you soon. Bye. So here it is, my Amiga 600 fresh from the Amiga Kit with all the capacitors replaced, meaning this machine should last for many years to come, which is fantastic. You've also noticed a little compact flash card here acting as the hard disk. Putting the motherboard back in the case is very simple. Just unscrew all the screws from the bottom of the case if they're there, and take the top cover off. Just be careful of those little plastic clips again that I warned about in part 1 of this video. The motherboard may take a little bit of wriggling to get in, but once you've got it there, it's nice and simple. Just make sure that you're careful that the joystick and mouse ports actually do line up. Here I'm testing just whether the PCMCIA cards slot in through the little gap on the bottom half of the case freely. The next crucial step is to put the floppy drive back in. My drive has been completely refurbished by Amiga Kit and is now in full functioning order. You'll see very clearly here that there is some extensive damage to the keyboard membrane cable, and this is why the control key and many other keys on my keyboard weren't working. I'm not sure what caused it to get into this condition, but I can only assume that something slightly corrosive must have got into the air vents on the top of the Amiga 600 some years ago and had been on top of that cable for so long that it actually wore through or burned through the plastic. You'll have to excuse my lack of technical chemistry terms. It was never really my forte at school, so I'm sure somebody's going to say to me that it's not corrosion or something like that, but you get the gist of it. Ultimately, the traces in the cable were actually shot, so it had to be replaced. Thankfully, I found a replacement on a supplier that I'll place a link to in the video description, and I managed to get a replacement keyboard membrane. You have to be aware with the Amiga 600 that there appears to be two types. There is a green type, which is what I have here, and the blue type membrane. You'll be able to easily tell which type yours is just by looking at the colour of the cable that is coming from your keyboard if you have a problem with some of the keys working. Now that we have the back panel off the back of this keyboard, you'll remember in the first video that I mentioned the Amiga 600 was originally designed to be a low-cost Amiga 500 replacement called the A300, and it wasn't just the early motherboards that had A300 printed on them. This keyboard membrane clearly shows that it is indeed A300. And it also extends further than there because the very back part of the keyboard itself also has stamped into it A300. It's a quirky little detail, but one that I found amusing nonetheless to discover. Putting the replacement keyboard membrane on is very simple. Just line up the little gap for the LEDs on the left hand side shown here and the screw posts, and you'll find the membrane just slots in perfectly. And then all that remains to be done is to fix the metal panel of the keyboard to the back again and put in all those tiny little screws. It's a little bit tedious, but once it's done for another 20 years. Or so we hope.
And we need to listen, to breathe again, to breathe.
The final job of putting this keyboard and A600 back together is putting in a keyboard ribbon cable backing. This can be incredibly fiddly, but just make sure that the outer plastic sleeve of the connector is pulled up on both sides and just very gently edge the ribbon cable into the connector. It may take a few attempts and may be easier if you remove the floppy drive, data cable and power cables before doing so, but just take it easy. It is too easy to damage this keyboard membrane cable again, so yes, it's fiddly, but you'll get there. We're now at the final steps of putting this Amiga 600 back together. There's just a small little upgrade to do, which is to add 1 MB of chip memory to the trapdoor slot at the bottom of the machine. This is very easy to access. Simply get a flat-headed screwdriver, pop the little plastic panel underneath the Amiga 600 off, and just push in the memory upgrade. Yours may vary, but these upgrades are very plentiful and actually quite cheap, and adding an extra megabyte of chip memory will give your Amiga the maximum graphics and sound memory that the custom chips can access.